There is nothing new about traffic congestion in the United States. The story of the American city is the story of people on the move. But when Henry Ford mass-produced the automobile and made it the easiest way to get to work, we created that great American experience, the traffic jam. Too many motorists coming together at the same time in the same place. Here, all the ingenuity that built the automobile and the modern freeway has become an apparition of wasted time, wasted energy, wasted money. Today, solutions are in sight. Engineers are designing other ways for people to get around, like express buses on their own exclusive right-of-way, and people movers of all kinds. People are rediscovering their own feet, too, and the bicycle. The decade of the 1970s is the decade of transportation alternatives. But the first large-scale breakthrough in moving great numbers of people rapidly and economically is the San Francisco Bay Area Rapid Transit System, commonly called BART. BART country is a montage of peopled hills overlooking the Golden Gate and the Pacific. Downtown San Francisco, the financial center of the West Coast. Oakland, an industrial giant anchored north and south in a stretch of urban development 35 miles long. Beyond, the Berkeley Hills and the scattered suburbs of Contra Costa County. Altogether, 400 square miles of big cities and small towns, 3 counties, and 2.5 million people. Regardless of class or color, age or occupation, the residents of the Bay Area are dependent upon a common economic base, and a healthy transportation system is one key to a healthy city. The BART solution for restoring mobility to the Bay Area is a system of high-speed trains operating on 75 miles of lines, serving 38 passenger stations, and capable of carrying up to 30,000 seated passengers per hour in the peak direction. Those are the bare-bones statistics. But the story of BART is more than a description of streamlined trains and electronic equipment. Behind the miles of rail and tons of concrete, the wheels that turn and the lights that flash, behind the metallic phenomenon is a deliberate plan, ambitious in concept, and looking 50 years into the future. The objective, to keep this urban complex dynamic, to help preserve it as a center of commerce and culture, industrial strength, and economic stability. To do this by weaving into the fabric of the Bay Area an entirely new and vastly better way of getting around. From the suburbs into the central city, and from the inner city to the suburbs. Wherever the jobs are, the places to learn, the places to play, and the places to expand one's personal horizons. To build and operate the BART system, the California State Legislature created a special body, the San Francisco Bay Area Rapid Transit District. The district, in turn, assigned the big design effort to a team of 3 engineering firms known as Parsons, Brinkerhoff, Tudor, Bechtel, PBTB. PBTB marshaled an army of experts, from planners who knew urban transportation on its broadest term to specialists who knew single technical aspects better than anyone else in the country. Nearly 5,000 engineers in all, and a management team which could put the whole thing together and make it work. Backing up the PBTB organization, the 3 member firms, each with its own unique capabilities. Bechtel, a leading international engineering and construction firm, has completed design assignments on 6 continents. Its staff of 6,000 engineers covers the entire spectrum of industrial technology, with special skill in automation and the experience and capacity to manage billion-dollar projects. Parsons, Brinkerhoff, Quaid, and Douglas, founded in 1885, represents a unique combination of transportation planning and engineering talent. Parsons designed the first New York City subway at the turn of the century and has helped to modernize 10 of the nation's largest rapid transit systems. The firm has also completed long-range transportation studies for 200 national governments, states, cities, and counties, and designed or managed construction of 10,000 miles of highway and 4,000 bridges. Tudor Engineering Company specializes in public works engineering, feasibility studies, long-range plans, and design for county-wide and statewide transportation systems. The company has sharpened its engineering skills on highway, bridge, and water development projects. Dozens of other design firms were brought onto the BART project, each with some specialized skill. With the aid of all these disciplines, PBTB designed the 75 miles of lines and, with 15 different architectural firms, the 38 passenger stations. Over a period of 8 years, the joint venture organization managed $1 billion worth of construction, drew the plans, wrote the specifications, and then made sure the job was done right. The engineers built into the new system not only the advancing technology of urban mass transit, but the mandates of the people who would operate it and use it. Location of lines and stations was the first step in the long planning process.
These are the areas that we as engineers and planners had to serve. San Francisco, the entire East Bay, then connect the whole thing into an integrated system. So we located a line from Richmond to Oakland, from Concord to Oakland, and from Fremont to Oakland, then under the bay into San Francisco. Now, line location is a matter of anticipating growth, that is, future patronage, where it's likely to build up. 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now. Tying down stations gets to be a bit stickier. You've got to make it easy for people to get into the system. You must consider local site conditions, political demand.
The engineers placed 34 stations in strategic locations, half in the suburbs to serve the massive rush of morning and evening commuters, half in the major cities, Oakland, San Francisco, and Berkeley. Interface with other transportation modes is as important as line and station location when you're trying to build patronage. Easy transfer from buses, bicycles, and automobiles. In downtown San Francisco, BART is putting the city's streetcar system into its new subway so patrons can move quickly from one system to another. To preserve valuable urban land and the free movement of traffic on surface streets, PBTB planners put 80% of the BART system overhead, underground, or on existing transportation corridors. They tucked 11 miles into the median strip of a new freeway, negotiated 29 miles onto railroad rights-of-way, carried one line through the Berkeley Hills in tunnels 3 miles long, and traversed San Francisco Bay with an underwater tube. The Trans-Bay Tube, 130 feet below the choppy waters of the bay, was one of the most ingenious construction projects on the system. It was built in sections, some as long as a city block, fabricated on shore and launched like ships, towed out into position and sunk into a trench across the bottom of the bay. Slipping through the tube, BART trains can travel between downtown Oakland and downtown San Francisco in 9 minutes. To get BART trains off the surface, the engineers designed a handsome elevated structure. It had to be sturdy enough to carry 10-car trains, but as slender and open as possible. To achieve this effect, they mounted long trackway girders on single columns, tapered the girders to avoid a feeling of massiveness, and separated them to let a band of sunlight fall through. The columns are hexagonal to reduce their shadow side to narrow bands of varying density. Thus, the structure became not only attractive in itself, but it created long stretches of open space for linear parks. Here, the designers landscaped the area, installed benches, tables, and fountains, and winding walkways for cyclists and pedestrians. The true test of a new urban transportation system, however, lies not in how it looks, but in how well it works. How good it is in terms of engineering efficiency. How new, how innovative in concept.
Yeah, you know, before BART was started, it'd been nearly 60 years since a completely new transit system had been built in the U.S. Oh, of course, all transit systems have kept improving and modernizing, but everybody was still pretty much stuck with 600-volt power and manual controls and other standard equipment. Well, BART gave us a chance to back away from all that, and even to explore some completely new concepts. Well, in all, we spent about 2 years and $12 million on research and development of all kinds. There was a tremendous challenge in
The desire to create a really new system dominated engineering design. It took form in a slogan which one of BART's senior engineers stuck on his wall, and others copied. One objective was a vehicle built to contemporary standards, fabricated like a modern airliner, light in weight to conserve electric power, but strong in structure, and riding on a new kind of track for greater stability and comfort. The train enabled BART to reach its two major goals, high speed and high capacity. It travels up to 80 miles per hour, and it carries up to 1,500 passengers. During the rush hour, it moves twice as fast as automobiles on the congested freeways. You can move many people over long distances and at high speeds, but unless you can get them from station to seat quickly and easily, you have just another traffic jam. Fast ticketing got high priority. The solution was a combination of two ideas, a reusable ticket and self-service vending machines. A BART patron can buy a ticket for any value up to $20, and use it over and over until its value is exhausted. That cuts ticket purchasing to a minimum. Fare collection on the run and electronically. When a patron enters the system, he uses his ticket to get through the gate. A mechanism inside the entrance gate records the station of entry, the time of day, and other data on an invisible magnetic strip along the edge of the ticket. At the exit gate, a small electronic computer calculates the fare required, deducts it, and imprints the remaining value of the ticket for the information of the owner. The process takes 1 second. Another need, automatic train controls. To provide rush hour capacity requires fast trains, and a great many of them. A virtual stream of trains pours through the biggest BART stations. That kind of traffic calls for automation, a remote control system which can operate 100 trains or more simultaneously around the 75-mile network. A system of electronic devices at wayside regulates the speed of trains along every foot of track, accelerating or decelerating each to fit changing track and traffic conditions, stopping trains in stations, and even opening and closing doors.
Take it easy. Plenty of time.
Other electronic equipment provides train protection by creating safety zones between trains. By continuously monitoring the movement of trains through blocks, it can detect any stoppage and automatically slow down or stop, if necessary, the trains which follow. At BART's control center, a computer maintains contact with all trains on the network in another way. As a train approaches a station, electronic equipment identifies it and flashes its arrival time to the computer. The computer checks that information against the train's programmed arrival and almost instantaneously relays instructions back to the wayside control to speed that train up or slow it down to the next station. The result, a smooth flow of trains when and where they're needed. BART's electrical power system is another product of the R&D program. It cost $40 million to design and build. But in an era of environmental concern, the BART trains, clean and quiet, are helping reduce air and noise pollution. BART's smooth ride began here on the trackway also. Here, the engineers came up with a new track design for greater stability, new rails, and new methods of holding rails firmly in place. The steel was laid in lengths 1/4 mile long, mounted on special pads to absorb sound and vibration, continuously welded to eliminate the traditional clickety-click of wheels rolling over joints. All of these innovations, and many others, were the product of a 3-year research and development program. At the same time, the designers initiated a program to make the system attractive as well as efficient. The effort to make BART not elegant but beautiful was concentrated in station design. 15 architectural firms were retained to bring individuality into the system. The result is a kaleidoscope of structural concepts, color, and materials, in each case compatible with the site and the urban activities around it. This is Civic Center Station, a handsome effort to bring into the subway environment the stately atmosphere of San Francisco's seat of government, dignified but warm. Glen Park Station, its rough-textured beams resembling heavy timbers, relieved by bright blocks of color. On the walls, slabs of Idaho slate. On the concourse level, a huge skylight spans the full length of the station. Powell Street Station, modernistic, brisk, and businesslike, with super graphics, stainless steel columns, and 8-foot color transparencies for highlights. But the dominant color is white, the brilliant white of walls and ceilings, an attractive backdrop for the dynamic movement of people. Wherever possible, the architects brought air and sunlight into the subway stations with open wells, skylights, and window walls, and broke the descent to the subway with plaza entrances, providing a pleasant transition from street to subway.
Attractive stations are important. So are automatic train control and electronic fare collection. But right here is where it all comes together. Some people will be spending 30 minutes or more riding this train every day. So you've got to produce a really first-class motor.
First class, in BART's case, means extra-wide upholstered seats, carpeted floors, pleasant lighting, air conditioning, wide-view windows with tinted glass. These are the amenities that give people a new kind of transit experience. Today, BART is a dynamic part of the Bay Area. It is living proof that a contemporary phenomenon of engineering can bring new life and new energy to an urban community. Respecting the best of yesterday while reaching for the best of tomorrow. The know-how which produced the BART system is being applied in a dozen other cities, creating new alternatives in mass transportation. But in one aspect or many, they will draw from the reservoir of expertise developed on the BART project. This is where the technology of moving people was pushed to new horizons. This is where the new era of transportation alternatives began.